face with experts. With me today is Dr. Lisa Brosseau, and she is a nationally recognized expert on respiratory protection and infectious diseases. She taught at the University of Illinois Chicago for many years. She's retired from teaching, but not retired from giving her opinion, even when it means going against the grain. Dr. Brosseau recently co-wrote an opinion piece that stirred a bit of controversy. Why? Well, here's the title: Masks for All, COVID-19, Not Based on Sound Data. In it, Dr. Brosseau argues, well, I'll let you sum it up from here, Doctor. What's the gist of the opinion piece?
So the article started out with the goal of trying to look at the literature related to cloth masks in healthcare. And then it got expanded way beyond that to cloth masks and surgical masks and respirators, and for healthcare and for the community. So it was a much more comprehensive than I expected it to be. It took me a little longer to write, but at the end of the day, I was looking at cloth masks and surgical masks and respirators from several points of view. First of all, for healthcare and community, but also, do they work as source control, or do they work as personal protective equipment, or both? And at the end of the day, cloth masks, in my opinion, don't work in any form. They aren't very good at source control, except for maybe very large particles, and they should not be used in healthcare settings for a number of reasons. Surgical masks, I decided, based on the literature, might have a role as source control for people who have symptoms. Say if they're staying home and they have some symptoms, they shouldn't be something you'd wear if you have symptoms going out into the public, because you shouldn't be going out into public with a surgical mask or with symptoms. But it's a good option for patients to wear in healthcare settings where they, especially for those who are experiencing symptoms, to what I would call diminish the viral load, basically decrease the amount of particles, infectious particles in the air in a healthcare setting. So at the end of the day, the only thing that provides personal protective equipment or personal protection for the person wearing the mask is a respirator. And that is the thing that healthcare workers should be wearing, particularly if we're worried about the small aerosols, small particles that people will generate when they're infectious. And in fact, people generate particles whether they're infectious or not, but particularly when they're infected and infectious, that will be present in the vicinity of a patient. That the best protection in that case is for the healthcare worker to wear a respirator. And I got asked a little bit to think about respirators for the community. If we had a lot of respirators, that might be a good idea, but we don't have very many of them. And so for the purposes of saving respirators for the people who really need them, I recommended that the public not be wearing respirators and not be buying respirators. And if they had them, please donate them even to healthcare workers. So I hope that's...
Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to speak my piece. All right. So check this out. I want you guys to get practical here. We're not going to deal with theories. I'm going to show you how you can use your mind based upon what God has given you. How you can test theories and find facts, find proof. So they're no longer theories. Now, for everybody's wearing a cloth, face cloths, bandanas, shirts, mask, surgical masks, those blue and white masks, right? I want you to go inside your room, right? I want you to get your perfume. I want you to get your cologne. I want you to spray it in the air. Tell me, after about minute 30 seconds, do you smell anything through that mask? say you don't, you're lying. Okay? Cool. Now, I want you to fit $5, $10, $15. You can go get you some pepper spray. You can go get you a mini little thing of mace. I want you to double up the mask, like 3 masks. I want you to put a towel, 2 towels over your face instead, maybe. I want you to spray it in a closed environment. Ten feet away, as far feet away you can. If you only can do 6, cool. It doesn't really make a difference. It's just about the matter of time and traveling. I'm just trying to give you the most extreme, make it harder for it to travel. Because the wind doesn't push inside the house. If you spray it outside, it's going to get to you faster. And I want you to tell me, did you end up inhaling any of those particles? Did you come in contact with any of that mace while being masked? Okay, we ain't gonna stop just there. I want you to go to a playground and I want you to take some dirt, some real fine, refined dirt, right? And I want you to toss it up in the air. Make sure your eyes are closed. Because I want this to be a safe experiment, you know. I'm really concerned about your safety here. So then I want you to tell me, did you smell any dust? Did you come in contact with any of the dust while your face is properly secured with these masks and these cloths? And if you have, through any one of these theories, came in contact with any of these gas or dust particles, because we use gas as well as for 2 tests, the spray from the perfume cologne, and then from the mace and the pepper spray, and then we use the dust particles from the playground. If you came in contact with any of these, then that's a guarantee that if there's any airborne disease, you have the same likelihood and chances of coming in contact with that without being covered by the blood of Jesus. Period. The only thing that's going to save you and prevent any prevention from these airborne diseases is the blood of Jesus. Now dig this. Let's deal with some more science. You can see these gases that you spray. You can see this stuff. You can see this. You know what I'm saying? You can see it. You can see that. Look at that. The things on those little microscopic, on those technologies, those things come out big. And that's considered micro. She says those things may help for macro. This was considered micro. And you can that's visible. You're trying to prevent things that are invisible that you can't see. You're talking prevention plans for airborne things that are more micro. And if these things can travel through the cloth and through these masks, you think something that's 10 times smaller is not going to be accessible to you? Come on, man. Let's stop playing games. So I don't need to be an expert, top doctor. None of you need that to determine what is safe for you. Now let me teach you something else that they taught us in elementary school. All right? Let's go back to school with this. Let me teach you something else that they taught us in elementary school. You breathe out what? Carbon dioxide. You inhale oxygen, right? You breathe in oxygen. Exhale carbon, inhale oxygen. Breathe out carbon dioxide, inhale oxygen, right? However, when you're wearing a mask, you are reducing the amount of oxygen that you will receive to the brain. And you're actually breathing in more carbon dioxide. You can smell it. You can smell your breath. That's the carbon on your breath. That's how you know you're breathing it back in, because your smell is when you're inhaling. And it's going straight to the brain, which is reading the chemical contents that is entering into the system. So when you got these masks on, you're limiting and reducing the amount of oxygen that is circulating through your blood, that is going through your brain, that's going through your muscles, which can cause nausea, lightheadedness, dehydration, muscle spasms, brain productions, and over a long period of time, mitochondrial diseases and all other types of diseases. Because, and this is why I said mention mitochondrial diseases for any people who are in the medical field, especially that understands anything about genetics and DNA, is that eventually mitochondrial is responsible for maybe 95 or more of the ATP energy that is the energy machine. It's the batteries, these battery cells. They're responsible for the production, the energy production by way of the ATP pathway. ATP pathway is pertaining to the glucose, the sugar. You receive energy from sugars, from natural compounds, so fructose and glucose, broken down from the ATP is extracted, and then the ATP helps produce ATP and CP. Oxygen is also another source of energy, especially dealing with aerobic. Anytime you're walking, stretching, running, jogging especially, it leans more onto the oxygen pathway for energy. Well, guess what? If there's no energy coming from the oxygen pathway, it's going to have to make the ATP pathway work more. And thus, now that you're exhausted of all your oxygen pathway, your ATP pathway is going to try to help substitute, and it's going to exhaust, it's going to deplete them of their operations. And if this is going on for a long period of time, oh man, all types of malfunctions are going to start developing in your body, because all of the living organisms depend upon battery to live. They depend upon energy. Why do you think your blood starts to become darker and darker for not receiving oxygen? Those are dead blood cells leaving out of your urine. Well, your blood is going to be really dark, even if you're drinking a lot of water, because you still need to breathe in the oxygen, because your brain needs. And breathing in is a faster route for the brain to receive oxygen than drinking water, because now it has to separate. It has to go through a hydrolysis process where it separates the hydrogen bond from the oxygen bond, and then it got to travel all the way to the bloodstream and do all of this. All of that process slows down when the brain is not working. So it's going to be scooting. Like the hemoglobin is going to be riding on like flats. Strolling up that hill trying to get to the brain. You're hurting yourself. And then you're wearing this for hours upon hours and hours of time. Based upon their recommendations, that is a gift, common sense, and basic health understanding. What? Then they're telling your frontline workers who work in the medical field to wear these things. How ridiculous. Now, if we're going to talk about chemicals, these blue and white masks have contaminants and chemicals on them already. Research and look it up. And then on the box, it tells you that it will not prevent any airborne diseases such as COVID-19. Go check that out. And then anybody was curious at the name that is called COVID, coronavirus. Corona is Latin for sun. Why would they associate the sun with a virus? So if we're going to deal with theories, let's deal with this theory. Let's say that it came from the sun. So we're dealing with something that's electromagnetic and mechanical, not airborne. And there's no mask that's going to prevent you from the rays of the sun. Huh? Okay. And I'm going to leave that one right there. Then they're telling you to be in a gym wearing a mask. And you actually go past the gym and you see people on the treadmill wearing a mask. and your heart rate is speeding up. So you're breathing more of that carbon dioxide in more, and you're exhausting more of the oxygen. So this is actually dangerous. That's why some gyms are making it what? An option. It's optional at gyms to wear masks, but it's a requirement for the fitness trainer. You are the health standard. You're supposed to be an example of the health model. Even if I make a recommendation for you not to wear the mask, it's going to be looking very hypocritical for me to trust you when you wear the mask. Don't smoke cigarettes. You're smoking. Come on, man. We got to cut this out. We have to. We have to. You know, I don't really want to go in to why they're telling you, why they're making these recommendations. It doesn't really matter. You guys need to bolden up, step up, do your research. You know what I'm saying? Debunk, discredit these non-meritorious claims made from CDC, Center for Disease Control, which don't know what they're talking about. They're not valid. You know what I'm saying? They cannot be respected no longer for lying to the masses and putting them at more risk. At more risk. I'm led to believe that most of these deaths are not even caused by corona. They're just claiming them as corona. People are dying and people are getting sick from other viral diseases as usual, and they're just all labeling it as corona virus. I mean, if you're going to lie about the basic health benefits that masks have, knowing that the masks are actually dangerous to wear, let me show you an example of that. Do firemen ride around with their mask on? Or do they only put their mask on when they have to step in a building that's full of smoke? And they're in and out the building even with their mask on. Even if there was no suspected life in there. They're not going to just be hanging out in there. Why? It's not because not because the masks are not sufficient to protect them from that disease, because they got more sophisticated masks. Theirs is almost like respirator systems. It's that it's also limiting the amount of oxygen that they're going to receive. Eventually, this mask got to come off. They're not wearing this mask more than an hour. Even people that are in the car, even OSHA talks about this. You need a certain amount of oxygen, 21% oxygen. I believe you need double. They're talking about as far as absorbing it from the air. I believe you need double. And which is the cause of why most people are not healthy, because of the amount of oxygen they're not getting. Several other reasons, but this is the major one. You know how much is reduced for oxygen that you're wearing, that you receive when you're wearing those cloths and those fabrics over your face and absorbing all of that carbon dioxide back into your lungs that were being pushed out? You better understand the times we are in. All the recommendations been death, death, death. This is the same system that's allowing millions of people to die. This is the same system that's been cutting women open and making it seem like C-sections are safe. They're giving them these pills to help push early conception rate. These conception pills for women to go into labor early. Early labor through pills. And it's destroying them. C-sections that are destroying them. They're receiving $10,000 every time they receive, allegedly. Let's go research that. Huh? I go on and on. They're taking the placenta. The placenta is needed. Because that's all the nutrients the child needs. And a lot of these allergens, it wouldn't even have had it would receive the nutrients from the placenta. The mom and the child needs it. Because the mom is going to be breastfeeding that child and needs to breastfeed that child as long as possible and never put the child on Enfamil. Because you don't even know what's in these formulas. And these formulas is already genetically modifying the hormones and the genetic makeup of the child.
because your genetics and your DNA is developed every day, and it can be changed any second of the day based upon behavior patterns and what you ingest in the body, because the DNA consists of proteins and amino acids. And only a percentage of that do the DNA continue to replicate. It depends upon the ingestation, meaning what you put in it to receive the other nutrients and amino acids and proteins it needs for the building the human compound over and over and over again. Well, what if everything you're receiving is synthetic? Just like the synthetic concept of you wearing this mask. Stop wearing a mask. Look to God and not the system. This information alone should make you very uncomfortable. And then it's basic information. So it's really insulting your intelligence. It's really telling you need to tighten up. If you are one of these people who are wearing these masks, not out of fear, not out of want to be compliant, but because you think that this is going to protect you, you should be bothered. I'm not trying to target you. I'm not trying to belittle you, but you should be ashamed that you are unaware of the health standards, and then you should feel neglected by the educational system and the people that are here to protect you. You should feel some type of way for being deceived, for being manipulated to be part of a compliance project, a beta test program for a new world system, a new world order. You should feel highly manipulated, taken advantage of, spiritually sodomized. You should feel violated to the ultimate degree and neglected. And you should feel ashamed the fact that you did not know wearing a mask all day long can actually do harm to you. And you never took in consideration the fact that these pathogens and airborne contaminants, such as thick as stuff that can come out of here, wearing a cloth over your face will not even prevent something like that from getting through. And that has high concentrations of water. Much hydrogen makes it dense. The density level compared to what they're talking about is 10 times bigger. And if you can smell those chemicals through the mask and pepper spray and mace, those other airborne diseases, which are invisible, is going to get to you. The only thing that protect you from that is your faith. Your faith and your obedience to God. Your faith in addition to your obedience to God is the only thing that will protect you. Putting that blood on the doorpost, and I mean that spiritually. Because we're in an Exodus moment, moving out of the life of sin to a life of righteousness, from mortal life to immortal life, from unconsciousness to consciousness to consciousness to consciousness, from glory to glory. And when the people were transitioning out of Egypt, which all this symbolically represents, which was written for people of this time, recorded for your admonition and your examples, he told them for the Passover to sacrifice the lamb and to put the blood on the doorpost, so that when the angel of death travels by and traverses, it will skip over your door. Anyone who has the blood of the lamb on the doorpost. How do you know this is not just an agent? The rays of heaven from the sun by way of God coming swift. It's called coronavirus. In spite of what they're telling you about this virus, it's airborne. Could it be just spiritually born? What's going to protect you from the rays of the sun? Only God. It's called coronavirus, not airborne virus. And if this virus is even real, and it's called coronavirus and is associated with the sun, it has nothing to do with your nose. Your whole body is at risk. Period. You looking at the sun will put you at risk. Your skin being exposed to the sun being at risk. You're at risk regardless if you're not under the umbrella of Christ. That's facts.